What's going on, guys? Casey back here with another video. We are going to be getting into a couple different things today. I tinkered on my brother's bike a little bit after the last video, and I actually got to take it down the road. This thing's got some pep to it. The one thing I did change was I put my Yoshi pipe on because, well, they just look the best. It's my favorite pipe ever made. I love the way they sound. I think they look good. And I threw it on his bike just because his other pipe's kind of not completely together now. He repacked it, but it still needs to get some rivets in it and get it all back together. But I figure the Yoshi's probably a much better pipe to have on that bike right now. And I kind of nut and bolted it for the most part and messed with a few things. I messed with some jetting on the carb. It's still kind of spitting right off of as soon as you first turn the throttle. But before I can tweak on it any more than that, I need to get the brakes bled, and I need somebody's help for that. So eventually we'll get that finished. And I just got home with my newest purchase, a 2008 TTR110. Got a really good deal on it. Came with a GYTR pipe. Basically stock outside of that. It's got a tusk shifter, +1 shifter, and then it's got a really janky carb setup. So we're gonna have to change that. They pretty much didn't do it the right way. This carb will work on this bike, but they don't have the proper intake for the carb to sit where it's supposed to. That's the stock one. So that's not gonna work. We're probably gonna have to change that, but this is a flip bike. I don't plan on keeping it for very long, hopefully only a couple days, and it's on to the next person. We did sell that KLX. Guy came and picked it up. He was happy, bought it for his kid for Christmas, so that's cool. This bike, same thing. I'm not going to tell you guys how much I paid for it, but I will tell you how much I've sold them for. And that KLX I sold for 1,400 bucks. I made money on it, so you can kind of figure out what you think I paid for it, because I didn't really touch it. Just brought it home and cleaned it. And that's about it. I'm going to clean up the shop a little bit. As you can see, all of our tables are cluttered full of crap. Toolbox is full of crap. We've just been really busy. I got some Snap-on fancy tools for Christmas. We're gonna get this table cleaned up. And over here, I got BBR stiff springs for my personal TTR and dampening rods. So that's what we're gonna get into today. I'll show you guys how to do that. I'll show you how to set up your fluid and just how I do it. Anyways, there are probably 1,000 different ways people try to do it, but I'm just going to do it the way I do it. And if you guys are trying to do stiff springs and or dampening rods, you can do it the same way, but it's pretty simple. So we'll get into that on the TTR over there, but let me get the shop cleaned up. All right, shop's cleaned up, a little better than it was anyways. So we're gonna get started on my bike. So this is my 2013 TTR110. Pretty stock. It's got a KLX 110L rear shock on it. Super minty, rides really nice. In the front, I have, at the current moment, one stock spring on this side, 2 stock springs on this side, and it stiffens it up decent. It's not like great by any means, but it's a big upgrade over leaving it stock. And there's 10 weight oil in it. You can see I don't really bottom it out too often, but it's just not great for an MX track. It's kind of stiff in all the wrong places, if that makes sense. But yeah, it's kind of dirty at the moment. We rode it, but it's been raining and snowing for, shoot, I don't even know how long. This is a dumb issue with these. The freaking studs, they're not studs, they bolt. They bolt in, and they like to fall out, even if you Loctite them. So, common issue. Not really a big deal, but it does suck having to always replace them. So yeah, let's get this front end off, and I'll show you what the inside of the forks look like. All right, now that the forks are off the bike, couldn't get the brakes out of the front wheel. I don't know why. It's whatever. They work. I ain't messing with it. Don't break it, or don't fix it if it isn't broken, or break it because it's not broken or fixing. Who knows. Anyways, forks are out. So the next thing you're gonna do is, once you have them out, in the top here, there's usually a black cover, like such. You'll pop that cover out, and you'll see what I got going on here. Now, if you push this down, there's a C-clip in there. You pop that C-clip out, this top comes off, and you'll be into the inside of the forks. So let me get that popped apart real quick, and I'll show you what else that looks like. All right, so here we go. We got one of the forks tore apart. This is what you got going on. So here's your cap that you have to push down on. This is the clip that keeps that cap in the fork tube. And then you'll pull out this spacer. Now this is only on the TTRs. I don't believe the KLXs have a spacer. If they do, it's not this big. And then this washer sits on top of the spring. And then this is your spring. This is a stock spring. There's nothing really to it. You know, you just pull that stuff out. And now the bolt on the bottom is what holds your dampening rod in. You gotta undo that, get your dampening rod out, and then you'll be able to separate the two fork legs. So this is the same process if you're doing fork seals. They're under this dust cover. Once you pull all the stuff apart, you'll be able to pop them out and replace them and put it all back together the same way it came out. I recommend always laying your parts out in the order that they came out, so you kind of have an idea of how they go back in. If not, take pictures. It helps. So if you do have a brain fart and you can't figure it out, you can look back at your pictures. So we are going to get dampening rod taken out and get this fork rebuilt. Okay, so here we are with the dampening rod out. This is the stock one. This is the BBR one. You can visually see that it is that much longer, so that you'll gain that much ride height out of the front end, which is good for the L shock, because the L shock gives you, I want to say, like ½ inch, maybe 3/4 of an inch ride height in the rear. It's not a whole lot, but it's definitely noticeable. And I'm going with the dampening rods because it made the bike ride kind of funny. Like when you're coming into a corner, with the rear being a little higher than the front, it would want to dive hard into the corner, and you could feel the suspension would almost want to bottom out, and you'd lose a lot of drive going through the corner. Same with going up the face of a jump. I would notice that as I'm coming up the face and it would start to compress, that the bike would lose all its momentum, and it was hindering me on being able to jump as far as some of the jumps I need to be able to jump and different things like that. So go with the BBR dampening rods. It'll correct that ride height issue. I get my stuff through Factory Mini Bikes. He's a good dude over there. Real fast shipping. I think I got my stuff maybe 3 days. Might have been 2. But really good product. It's not very expensive. You know, 80 bucks for the dampening rods, 80 bucks for the stiff springs. And it's a big gain over stock suspension. Without sending this stuff to somebody who knows how to do custom work on them, this is the best you're going to get out of the front. So let's get this fork tube back together and I'll show you how to do the oil. Okay, so put your dampening rod in, tighten it all back up. You have your top tube in, fully compressed with no spring. You can see that very bottom line. That's about where you're going to want your fluid level to be, and that'll get you really close to the correct measurement. And it's all on the instructions. You can mic it out, but just to get your first pour in, if you can get up to about that bottom line right there, you'll be really close. So we're going to fill this up, and then we'll measure it out and finish putting the rest back together. Alright, that fork tube is all back together, back on the bike. This is how I measure my fork oil. I use a mic, and no, I don't know how to use this. I actually pull this bottom out and measure it with a tape measure. Yes, I know, stupid, right? And that's how I measure it. Works pretty good. So we are gonna move on to the next one. I'm gonna do that one off camera, and once it's finished, I'll catch back up with you guys. So, not 100% sure where we left off. Pretty sure it was me finishing up the other fork and getting the bike back together. So I have my bike sitting next to my partner's bike, and this one here is the one with the dampening rods and stiff springs in the front, KLX 110L shock in the rear. This one has a D&M shock in the rear and just stiff springs in the front. So this one here is basically stock ride height anyways. So give you a good comparison of the two. You can see this one's slightly leaning over, but the peg height difference there, and then you can see how much fork tube from here to here I have more compared to this one from here to here. And we can throw a tape measure on that real quick just to get a general idea of what the actual difference is. I know it says 1.5 inches on the paperwork. So let's go. We'll go from top of rubber to bottom of fork tube. Looks like it's roughly 5 3/4. Same over here. 4.5. So about 1.25 inches, give or take. I don't really have a... So here we go. That's a little better. So it is over... Yeah, it's about 5 3/4. So you get 1.25 inches on that. But we'll measure the back. So this one with the D&M will go right about there. We'll say 25. And then we'll go off of mine in roughly the same spot, about 26.5. So you're gaining 1.5 inches roughly in the rear and 1.25 inches in the front, give or take it. I mean, it sits pretty level. There's another height difference view. But my bike sits pretty level. I would say the back's not any higher than the front. Maybe just a tad, but when you sit on it, it levels out pretty good. But it's cold in here. I don't know if you can tell, but you can see my breath. I'm going to get the heater kicked back on. It makes a little bit too much noise for the camera. I'm going to get everything cleaned up, and then I'm going to head inside for the night. It's Christmas Day. I'm going to go inside and hang out with the family. Enough with the bikes. It's pretty cold out here. But if you guys want to stick around for more content, I'll be doing more stuff to the TTR. My partner will be doing more stuff to his TTR. We'll be getting this ready to flip. We'll be working on the 125 eventually. And then the 2 mod bikes. But yeah, so you guys have a good night. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, the little bell notification so it tells you when I post a new video, and hit that like button. You guys have a good one. Thank you.